Hi everybody, welcome to March's weekly online card class. My name is Stacey Marsh and I'm a demonstrator from the United Kingdom for Stampin' Up. Thank you so much for joining me today. For the month of March, every week I'm going to be sharing a new card design using the Storybook Garden Patch stamp set. It looks like this. You'll find it in the mini catalogue. And the product number is 164663. It is a cling stamp set, so it consists of the red rubber images, and you get 10 stamps in the set. There are a coordinating set of dies that go with this, and they cut around the images, and there are a few detailed dies that go with it. So for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to be sharing a different card design each week, and we're starting this week with week number 1. Week number 1's design looks like this. Now I've also added in some of the designer series paper that features within the suite where this stamp set comes from, which this stamp set is part of. You'll find it in the mini catalogue, the whole suite. It starts on pages 22 and 23. Just move that out of the way. So here it is. Starts to talk to you about that. So there are 2 stamp sets in this suite. You have Storybook Garden Patch, which is the one we're using, and we have Storybook Friends, which is all the cute little animals with the sentiments. With the Storybook Garden Patch, it is the framelit style dies with a few interactive ones and detailed ones. And with Storybook Friends, we have some really nice delicate frames and the framelits that go around the animals. There are 2 patterned papers that coordinate with this suite. There is Timeless Plaid and Storybook Moments. Now, I've used the Storybook Moments papers throughout these cards over the next 4 weeks. You don't necessarily need to use the papers. You could use something else you have in your stash, but I wanted to show you just how they can coordinate together. Here is the stamp suite in a bit more detail. It gives you some really nice examples of how to use the papers, how the dies work. Over here, this is a really fun die. We're going to be using this die in week number 4, I do believe. And it's really interactive and really fun. And then a little bit more information, how to use it on a scrapbook page. And that's it. So that is the suite in a nutshell. But I've used a few bits and bobs throughout the weeks with this stamp set. So in your kits, if you're following along at home, you have 4 kits and there is a kit for each week. So we're starting with kit number 1, and everything you need for these cards, apart from your stamped images and your sentiment, is in your kit. You've also got some scrap white for stamping, and you've got some patterned paper. Now, I would leave that patterned paper to one side until we get to week 3, because we're going to be doing a little bit of fussy cutting. So in this particular card kit, you have a card base. It's cut from Pecan Pie cardstock. Pecan Pie, for those of you that don't know, is my favourite brown tone that in our colour collection. You have a piece of crumb cake card that has a square aperture in it. And you have a piece of designer series paper that looks like this. It's got this nice, what I would call like a vintagey looking wallpaper pattern on the background that's in wild wheat. You could use either one of those for your patterned paper. You'll also have a piece of white. That piece of white is your layering piece for inside your card, just to strengthen it all together. And then you have a die cut label. These come from the Unbounded Love dies. And the sentiment that I've chosen comes from a stamp set that's new. It is in the mini catalogue as well. It's Lifelong Friends. And when I saw this set, I thought of kind of gardeners and sentiments that you could use. And I just thought this was really nice. I couldn't have picked a better friend. What a lovely sentiment. So those are the bits and pieces that you have in your kits. Now, you're going to need some scrap white as well for your stamping. Stamping wise, I'm going to stamp the plant pots, the fork or the garden fork, and the watering can. I'm stamping with a Memento ink pad. This one here. That's the black that I like to use with Stampin' blends, and Stampin' blend markers are going to be my colour medium today. Colours that I'm using light and dark copper clay. I wanted to create a sort of terracotta feel to these plant pots. I love a terracotta pot. I've got many of them in my garden. Now they're waiting for flowers. So copper clay there, it is one of our in colours our 2023 to 2025 in colours. That colour will be disappearing at the end of April. So do remember to top up your supplies if it's one of your favourites and you want to carry on using it. For the grey tone, I have used grey granite. So again, light and dark tone of grey granite. And then mossy meadow is my colour for my handle. So again, light and dark. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a few little colouring tips for this stamp set. But the first thing we're going to do is stamp those images. So I have here, I have the watering can and the plant pots. Now, in terms of stamp placement, I'm not having to worry about where this stamp is being placed. So I've just mounted it on both sides of the block. So give your ink pad a really good, your stamp a really good inking. A watering can. And I sat and created these cards a few weeks ago, and it's really made me want to get out in my garden, which I can now do because the sun has arrived. Spring has definitely arrived. Where is the fork? Where's the fork? There are dies that will cut these out, so you don't have to worry too much about fussy cutting. Although they're quite straightforward to fussy cut, what I love about the watering can die is it is going to cut out that inner part of that handle. Okay, so let's just bring my screen a little bit closer so you can see my... Okay, so the beauty of these blends is that they're going to do all the work for us. So I always like to start with my lightest colour. So I'm going to start with light grey granite, and I'm using the main felt tip end. Just making sure we're definitely in focus. We are in focus. And I'm just going to give the whole watering can a really nice wash of that colour. Now, one thing that I've enjoyed doing with this is sort of thinking about where the light's going to be. So I'm just going to leave a little gap there of white in the handle. So let's say I'm also going to colour in the fork head on here as well. Now you can use anything you like to colour your images in. I'm a big fan of pencils, and in these videos I'm going to show you how to use them both together. So next I'm going to the dark grey granite, and I'm just thinking about where the shadow might be and how to accentuate some of the markings on this watering can. So this inner part here is going to be nice and dark as well, isn't it? So I've just added a little bit of shading there, and now I'm going to go back over with my light, and I'm just blending those colours together. So that's given me a little bit of texture. Now I'm also going to use my pencils as well. So this is something that I've been watching other demonstrators do recently, and I'm just using them to add a bit more definition to my images. And you're going to see me doing this quite a bit with these cards. So just take your time with your images and your colouring. There we go. So that is my watering can. I think it looks fairly realistic. Perhaps your watering can would have a bit of rust on it. Mine definitely does after it's been in the garden for the winter. There we go. So that's my watering can. Now I'm going to move and finish the fork. So the fork, I'm going to use dark grey granite just on the sort of near the handle part of the fork, just to give it a little bit of definition. You can't really get a huge amount on here because it's such a narrow kind of image. There we go. I'm going to use just a little bit of my pencil. So, and then for the handle, I'm going to use light copper clay. And it really, when you put the light on, it really does look terracotta-y. Now that is a word. If you watch Wicked, you'll know it's okay to make up your own words. Let's just go over that. And then the handle I'm doing with Mossy Meadow. I just liked the green in the paper and wanted to bring it into my Stampin'. I'm not going to worry too much about the definition there. Now the plant pots. The plant pots are my favourite thing to colour. So I'm going to start with light copper clay and do exactly the same as I did with the watering can. And let's give them a really nice layer. Base colour. Just follow this up here. There we go. So that's my first layer. Now I'm going to bring in my dark copper clay and I'm going to use the fine tip here. Now I'm not going to use the felt tip brush. For some reason the felt tip brush is a bit darker. Just following the kind of the rim of the terracotta pot. So going over with the white one. So that's giving us some definition. Now I'm going to use the colour lifter, and I'm going to use the colour lifter just on this little area here, just to blend some of that colour out. There we are. On this one, I'm going to use the Early Espresso pencil. I think this really does bring this sort of image really together. Look at that. That's starting to look really good. There we go. So that's my terracotta pot, my watering can, and my garden fork all coloured. So now I can dive to cut those out. So let me cut those out. Okay, so I've now cut out my 3 items. My die's on there so I don't lose them. So we've got the plant pots. They look really good. We have the watering can. You can see it's cut out the handle and that bit in between, so it does look better when it's been cut with the die. And we have the garden fork as well. Now, in the event that you have your dies have moved ever so slightly, just use your snips to neaten them up a little bit. So that one, I'm just going to take that bit off there. So pop those to one side, and now we can focus on building the card. So first thing, let's crease the card base. Now, the idea of these two pieces, this one, the DSP is going to get stuck on the card, and then your frame is going to get stuck on over the top, almost so it looks a bit like a Polaroid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this down with some wet glue. and I'm putting it so it's about 1.5 centimeters from the top. You've got a little bit of movement room. And then the frame I can stick down, but I'm going to stick it down with some foam pads just to raise it a little bit. I like that we can get a little bit of height on this card with this frame. Let's peel off those backs. And then just lay that on over the top. Like so. So that's our little Polaroid section coming along. Now taking these pieces and stick these on, and these are going to get stuck on flat. I'm actually going to put a little bit of glue on my frame. That's going about there, just so it overlaps that corner a little bit. And then stick on my watering can. So, and then the garden fork. The garden fork I am going to put on a little pad. Just using some of these mini ones. And actually, I've put that on there, but the handle doesn't actually get stuck down. So that's going there like so. And then all I've got left to do is my inner piece and my sentiment. So the sentiment, I'm going to attempt to get it on this banner so that it's straight. And I'm actually stamping in Early Espresso ink. Early Espresso ink is a great alternative to Memento. I couldn't have picked a better friend. Could have been more centralised, but it's a handmade card, so it doesn't need to look absolutely perfect. Let's put some pads in here. And that's getting stuck about there, just so it sits below the frame. And then the last thing I've got is my piece of white, my strengthening piece, to stick inside the card. And there we go. That is week 1's design. All complete. I hope you liked it. Do join me next week, same time, same place, for card number 2. Have a great week. Bye for now.